So, we've talked over the last God knows how long about your party, the Jeremy Corbyn slash Zara Sultana slash lots of other independent people in Parliament group, and their political party, which they're starting, which is sort of called Your Party as a holder name, but doesn't really have a name. So I'm just going to refer to it as Your Party because that's what it's known as at the moment. But that's subject to change. Yes, it's all very confusing and silly. Anyway, I've largely held off from that much by way of criticism. I've criticised certain things that as they've sort of cropped up, the teething problems with various parts of getting this party going. But I've sort of stayed away from like left disunity, as it were, because I don't think that's very productive, largely. But there comes a point where I feel like you can only take so much before it becomes cuckery. Cuckoldery? I think that's the word, isn't it? Anyway, before it becomes sort of pathetic and spineless, to not stand up for yourself, really. It goes beyond just accepting a few silly little jibes for the sake of left unity to something a bit more than that. Now, for absolute clarity, I am a member of the Green Party, and I am absolutely speaking from that perspective. You can call me biased if you wish, and I don't fucking care. I've had enough. I've had enough of this shit. The teething problems with the party and all the rest of it were neither here nor there to me, really. They didn't look good, but ultimately they were still salvageable, at least ethically speaking, if not necessarily from a organisational standpoint. But, whatever. I was willing to give them a chance. But they've gone so far with it now. We have had guys like Adnan Hussein, who I think is teed up now to be the membership officer of this political party. Because again, they said they weren't going to centralise, and now they've massively centralised. To the point where I think X number of their top positions won't be voted on by the membership. They will be appointed by the central committee. It's ludicrous. Anyway, Adnan Hussein, a transphobe, anti-abortion landlord, is one of the key figures in this political movement. Whereas Zara Sultana, a person I have a lot of time for, although I will be criticising her in this video, has been sidelined from this situation. And yet, they keep telling me, these Your Party people, how they're the really radical ones. How they're the real leftists. And the Green Party are middle class, upper class, blah, blah, blah. Even though there are literally 0 privately educated Green MPs. So, that's a thing. Anyway. Yes. A couple of things that cropped up from this interview that Zara Sultana did with Politics Joe. Firstly, there's this sort of slightly unnecessary jibe towards the Green Party, which is silly.
Of Israel to come with the red carpet treatment. We have provided diplomatic cover, and that's why our position as a party must be an anti-Zionist position, and that means expelling the Israeli ambassador. That means shutting down the Israeli embassy, because you cannot have normal relations with apartheid, you cannot have normal relations with genocide. And that is a key point of difference with the Green Party, because I will have people who say, well, why don't you just join the Greens? There is no need to create a new left-wing party. But we are explicitly anti-Zionist, and that is a key point of difference when we look at South Africa under apartheid.
So she wasn't asked about the Green Party. She wasn't asked about them at all. She was asked specifically about the party's position on Israel. And yet she decided to dig into the Greens for no real reason. In fact, she spends more time, I think, in this interview attacking the Green Party than she does the Reform Party, which, yeah, it tells you something, I think. Also, Zara. Again, I like Zara Sultana. I think she's a worthwhile person. I'm not writing her off. But I think it's telling that you're the pure anti-Zionist party. And yet, you, Zara Sultana, when Zach Polanski and various members of the Green Party, the leadership of the Green Party, all of their MPs, were describing what was taking place in Gaza as a genocide, you were still a member of the Labour Party. You were elected at a general election as a Labour MP, with their Prime Minister in waiting, Keir Starmer, their leader, having openly said that it was absolutely fine that Israel was doing what it was doing. You stood on that man's manifesto and got elected. Like, I think that's worth pointing out in terms of who's the pure one here. Because this is the problem, right? Your party doesn't even have a fucking name, and yet you already want to purity test other people. When you stood on a platform of being elected on the same in the same party as the Labour Friends of Israel. Your government, at least the government of the party you were a part of initially, was flying drones on behalf of the Israeli government, was selling weapons to the Israeli government. And at no point did you step away from that. You kept the whip. You had to be kicked out. I'm sorry, you don't get to purity test other people when you've got that track record. I don't claim for a second that you're not an anti-Zionist. I think you are. But saying that people who have any kind of disagreement on this topic or a different approach to it are somehow like less anti-Zionist is gross. Don't fucking do that. She then moves on to, I've skipped forward a little bit because I've not listened to the whole interview. It's 38 minutes or whatever. Yeah.
By taking part in demonstrations for 2 years against the genocide in Gaza, where you see people protesting against the proscription of Palestine Action.
See, now that's interesting that you have that position on protest, given that your fellow member of your party, Adnan Hussein, again, you know, worth bringing him into mind. The average Brit, black, white and brown, just wants to live peacefully, coexist with their neighbours and live a decent life with dignity. The vast majority of Brits do not want Nazis crusading through our streets, nor equally absurd counter-demonstrators. So, if you stand as an anti-fascist in the streets to protect working class communities, you are equally absurd as Nazis. According to the really true based leftist party. This is Jeremy Corbyn's bestie. We saw him hugging the guy. And yet apparently standing for working class, marginalised, oppressed peoples in the face of a rising Nazi threat makes you as bad as the Nazis. Is he trying to go and work for fucking PragerU? Does he want a job working for Ben Shapiro? I don't know. I think that's interesting though, you know?
Disproportionately pensioners being called terrorists, you know that this government is completely out of touch, is using lies and scaremongering and smears of anti-Semitism because no one believes them anymore. And we see that lying and those smears and the kind of desperate clutching at anything, even when it comes to digital ID. First, they said, actually, it's about people having the right to work, and everyone replied, well, we've got national insurance numbers, so it clearly doesn't work for that. So they just are desperate to find anything that might work. It's like you just throw shit and see what sticks. And that is a government that has only been in power for a year, but has lost the confidence of the entire country.
So I guess you mentioned the Greens just there, and I think some people might be thinking, well, what is the difference between your party and the Greens? Why don't they merge? Why don't they form an alliance? I mean, what would you say to that?
Well, we will work together when it comes to defeating Reform and Nigel Farage and stopping him from getting the keys to Downing Street. And that is very important because we need to work with many allies to stop that from happening. But we are fundamentally different. We are a class-based party who isn't shy about talking about class politics.
Really? Because you've got 2 MPs who are landlords. Do you think they have a different view to you on class dynamics, Zara? Because I keep being told by your party people that their entire platform will be democratically decided upon. And yet, there has been no such decision made. And yet, Zara Sultana knows very firmly, A, their position on Gaza, Israel, which is exactly her position, apparently. That's already been decided. Cool. And in terms of class politics, exactly what is to be the case for this political party, even though it's supposed to be democratically decided at a function that has not yet taken place. How do you know they're going to have any of this? Because the steering committee, as it were, does appear to be made up of some pretty rich cunts. Business owners, long-term politicians like Jeremy Corbyn. Not that I think that he's necessarily a bad person or anything. I have a lot of time for him, a lot of love for him still. But let's not pretend he is absolutely in touch with the common man. And landlords. Do you think they may sway against the idea of it being an entirely class-based analysis? The amount of anti-trans talk I'm hearing from people in the your party does seem to suggest they're not entirely class-focused. There may be ulterior motives in there. But again, I mean, I'm just a filthy green. I'm not as good a socialist as these people. Clearly, Adnan Hussein, being a fucking transphobe, anti-abortion landlord, is a better leftist than I am. Because he's in the right party. Cool.
And I've seen interviews where, you know, there's this idea that people are turned off by class politics, and that isn't true because people see class war.
No, but you know what they are turned off by? Clown shows. Like, for instance, still having to put out these kind of announcements from the Your Party account. Message to your party members. If you signed up in the party-only portal promoted by Zara Sultana on the 18th of September, you are a member of your party. To transfer your membership onto the portal and take the part in the rest of our founding process, you need to do one thing. Fill in a form, blah, blah, blah. This was months ago. They still haven't sorted this out. This was fucking months ago. And they still haven't sorted it. To the point where they are literally taking legal action against some of the founders of the party. They don't even have a name, and yet they are taking legal action against some of the co-founders of the party. Left-wing party seeks to recover donations and data from company run by Andrew Feinstein, Jamie Driscoll and Beth Winter. So yeah, I don't think people are put off by class politics necessarily. Certainly not the kind of people you want to win over. I think I can talk about that. I think they're definitely not massively in favour of, like, you know, shit shows. Just saying.
Or when their bills rise, but energy companies are recording record profits, and they see class war when landlords hike their rent without a second thought.
Have you spoken to the people in your caucus at all? Have you spoken to the landlords that you sit with about that? Zara?
and people face eviction, yet bankers are bailed out, and they see class war when the 50 richest families in this country hold more wealth than half the population. So we are embracing class war, and this time we want and plan to win it.
Yeah, no war but class war. That's what you get with your party, right? Except not really, no, because a former member of the European Parliament has quit the Alba Party and joined your party. For those who don't know, the Alba Party was founded by disgruntled members of the Scottish National Party who wanted to do Scottish nationalism, but with transphobia. Literally, it was baked into the DNA of that party that they were transphobic. That's the entire appeal of that political party. Alex Salmond, the former First Minister of Scotland and leader of the SNP, when he broke away from that party, started the Alba Party as an explicitly transphobic nationalist movement. He has been welcomed. This creature has been welcomed. So no war but class war. And war against trans people, obviously. But don't get me wrong. Look, I am not as good a socialist, clearly, as the people in your party. They are better than me. They're better leftists. I need to learn from them, clearly. It's fucking infuriating.
And fundamentally, I think it is the politics of anti-Zionism that is a key difference. After 2 years of genocide and...
Some of which you spent in the party that's now doing the genocide. Again, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. But you were a member of the Labour Party whilst it was doing genocide. So when you're going about how much of a fantastic anti-Zionist you are, and I don't deny your sincerity in that claim, what I will say is that your record isn't squeaky clean. Whereas I don't think at any point most members of the Green Party have been a part of this genocide. Your party was. Not your party as in the Jeremy Corbyn party, the party she was a part of, the Labour Party. The one she was elected on 18 months ago. During the genocide that her party's leader backed. Do you remember? Israel does have that right. She does have that right. She didn't resign from the party. She was fine staying in that Labour Party. And then wants to lecture everyone else on how to do anti-Zionism properly. You see what I mean? I've had enough. I'm not going to be fucking lectured. I'm not going to be hectored by people with that record doing purity testing when you were paying your fucking dues to a political party that was doing the genocide.
Of seeing an Israeli government that basically has not been held to account. We cannot have diplomatic relations with a genocidal apartheid state, and that is really important because most people who have seen the bloodshed, the suffering, the starvation, understand that this isn't business as usual anymore with Israel. And so the Greens believe that we can have diplomatic relations with Israel, and we think that is not okay and acceptable, and we must sever all diplomatic ties. And then, of course, there is the point around NATO as well. And I think at the heart of that is the politics of anti-Zionism and anti-imperialism. But it's key to work together where we can, but we have to be honest about our differences too. And also, there's an MRP poll that came out recently that said, despite everything that's happened over the past few weeks, we as your party would win 13 seats. I see that as just the floor. Our potential is much higher, and that is double the number of seats that the Green Party under that MRP poll would get. So we are providing a different option, and that's a socialist option. Let's talk more.
Yeah. Socialist landlordism. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be fucking talked down to about how great a fucking socialist you are when you sit with Adnan Hussein. When you welcome in fucking scum like the Alba Party. Like, if you just want to be a one-issue party where all you give a fuck about is having the harshest possible tone when it comes to Israel, go for it. But don't pretend what you're doing is socialism, because it fucking isn't, okay? With Adnan Hussein, you just get in conservatism, but like one good foreign policy. Is that better than regular conservatism? I suppose. I'm still not fucking voting for it. You're joking. If you're prepared to throw everything under the bus, trans people, reproductive rights, economic rights, ending landlordism, basic tenets of socialist thought, because of Gaza, and not just because of Gaza, but because of a slight difference of approach in how to deal with the situation in Gaza, when you yourself were a part of a political party that was doing the genocide, whilst the Green Party opposed that genocide and was calling it a genocide, I'm sorry, you don't get to fucking call yourself a socialist. Or at least you don't get to call your party socialist, whatever your particular feelings on the matter might be. Because ultimately, Zara, and this is the problem here, you aren't a major figure in that party anymore. You have been completely sidelined. Jeremy Corbyn welcomes in Adnan Hussein, literally gives him a big hug in public, will speak on a platform with him. Jeremy Corbyn clearly can't stand the fucking sight of you. Jeremy Corbyn doesn't want anything to do with you. You have been totally sidelined. All of your acolytes are now being sued by the Corbyn faction. This is a joke. Your party is a joke. And it's not a very fucking funny one. So yeah, I've had enough. I don't write off all of the people in your party. I think the vast majority of people who have joined it are genuine, principled leftists who want to make a difference and see this as their potential vehicle. And you know what? All power to them. Genuinely. If anything good can come from this, at least it may have fostered a semblance of togetherness and unity in parts of the country where previously it didn't exist. People will make connections with other people. Maybe lifelong relationships and friendships. Brilliant. But I don't think anything politically on a national stage can come from this now. Nothing good anyway. So you know what? I'm done with them. I wipe my hands of your party. As far as I'm concerned, they're over. You can keep your party as your party, because it's not my party.